The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday afternoon at SETI's primary receiving station in New Mexico. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was about to end her shift when the arrays picked up something different from the usual cosmic background radiation, a signal that pulsed with mathematical precision. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth had confirmed it. Humanity's first contact with alien life wasn't coming from some distant star system. The source was barely beyond Mars' orbit, and it was decelerating. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the United Earth Defense Force headquarters in Geneva, watching holographic projections of the approaching vessel. After 20 years in the military Space Force, she thought she'd seen everything. The ship defied every conventional understanding of spacecraft design. Its hull seemed to flow like liquid metal, refracting light in impossible ways. "Final deceleration burn detected," announced Captain James Henderson, her tactical officer. "They're matching orbit with our moon." The room fell silent as the first clear images appeared on the main screen. The alien vessel was massive, easily the size of a small city, but what caught everyone's attention was the visible damage along its port side. Whatever the ship had flowed from, it hadn't escaped unscathed. The alien transmission that followed was broadcast globally, translated through advanced AI systems. The message was simple, yet terrifying. "We are the Arxer Collective. We come seeking Earth's help. A threat approaches that will consume all known space. We have watched your species, you who thrive on a death world, you who have survived what would kill most sentient beings. You may be our last hope." Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders as she was selected to lead the first contact team. As her shuttle approached the alien vessel, she reflected on humanity's long journey to this moment. We had dreamed of first contact for centuries, but no one had imagined it would come like this, with advanced aliens explicitly seeking help from Earth of all places. The docking procedure was automated, surprisingly smooth for two completely different technologies interfacing for the first time. Sarah led her team. Dr. Marcus Wong, xenobiologist, Lieutenant Aisha Patel, quantum physicist, and Professor David Cohen, linguistics specialist, through the airlock. The alien atmosphere was breathable, though it carried a strange metallic tang. They were met by Ambassador Zixtal of the Arxer Collective, a being that seemed to shift between solid and liquid states as it moved. Its translucent body pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that their translators identified as part of their language. "Commander Chen," Zixtal's translated voice resonated in their earpieces. "We apologize for the urgency of our arrival, but time is against us. The quantum tide approaches." Through a series of holographic displays, Zixtal showed them the threat. Entire star systems were being consumed by what appeared to be a vast network of quantum anomalies. Space itself was being unraveled and reconstructed into something alien and incomprehensible. The Arxer, despite their advanced technology, had found no way to stop it. "But why us?" Sarah asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Zixtal's body rippled with what their translators indicated was a mixture of hope and desperation. "Your species evolved on a world that should have killed you 1,000 times over. Your gravity would crush most sentient beings. Your atmosphere is corrosive. Your weather patterns are devastating. Yet you not only survived, you thrived. You turned these challenges into advantages." The alien's form stabilized as it continued. "We have watched your information broadcasts. You face natural disasters that would end civilizations, yet you rebuild. You encounter problems that seem impossible, yet you innovate solutions. Your fiction imagines threats that would break most species, yet you dream of overcoming them. We need that. The galaxy needs that." Dr. Wong stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the holographic display of the quantum tide's advance. "These patterns, they're not random. There's something almost organic about them." Organic. Zixtal's translator struggled with the concept momentarily. "We had not considered. We have been so focused on the quantum mechanics involved." Lieutenant Patel was already running calculations on her portable quantum scanner. "He's right. Look at these energy signatures. They're self-replicating, but in a way that's similar to biological systems. We're not just dealing with a quantum phenomenon. We're dealing with quantum life. Sarah watched as her team immediately began breaking down the problem, approaching it from angles the Arxer had never considered. This was humanity at its finest, facing the impossible with curiosity instead of fear, seeing patterns where others saw chaos, finding hope where others saw only destruction. She turned to Zixtal. "We'll help you, but first, we need to understand exactly what we're fighting. Tell us everything you know about the quantum tide's first appearance." As Zixtal began sharing their data, Sarah couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and responsibility. Humanity had dreamed of the stars for generations, imagining our first contact would lead to either conquest or enlightenment. Instead, it had led to this: advanced aliens seeking our help not despite our harsh origins, but because of them. The truth was both humbling and empowering. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't our technology or our intelligence, but our hard-won ability to face the impossible and find a way forward. Now that strength would be tested on a galactic scale. "All right," Sarah addressed her team. "Let's show our new friends what Deathworlders can do." The United Earth Defense Force headquarters had transformed into a hive of activity. 3 weeks after first contact, humanity's response to the galactic crisis was taking shape. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the newly established Quantum Defense Initiative control room, surrounded by holographic displays showing the quantum tide's advance across distant star systems. "The simulations confirm our initial hypothesis," Lieutenant Patil announced, manipulating a complex quantum visualization in the air before her. "The entities aren't just consuming matter. They're rewriting the fundamental laws of physics in their wake. It's like they're terraforming space itself." Dr. Wong nodded, his fingers dancing across his tablet. "And look at this pattern recognition analysis. The way they spread. It's remarkably similar to how certain extremophile bacteria colonies expand in superheated deep-sea vents. They're following energy gradients." The Arxer ambassador, Zixtal, observed their work with oscillating patterns of bioluminescence that the translators now recognized as amazement. In the weeks since first contact, the alien diplomatic contingent had watched in astonishment as humans attacked the problem from dozens of angles simultaneously. Sarah approached the central strategic display. "Show me the latest defense prototype." Professor Cohen, who had expanded his role beyond linguistics to include coordinating with Earth's industrial complex, brought up the schematics for Project Firewall. "We're calling it a quantum resonance barrier. The basic principle is similar to how coral reefs create zones of stability in turbulent oceans." Coral reefs. Zixtal's form rippled with confusion. "Your ocean barriers." "Exactly," Sarah smiled. "Nature on Earth has already solved many of the problems we're facing. Coral reefs create safe zones in otherwise hostile environments by gradually altering local conditions. We're applying the same principle on a quantum level." The prototype took shape in the holographic display, a network of satellites designed to generate overlapping fields of quantum stability. It wasn't just a shield, it was an artificial quantum ecosystem designed to resist the tide's attempt to rewrite physics. "The first test deployment will be ready in 48 hours, Captain Henderson reported. "The Chinese-Indian Space Manufacturing Alliance has already converted 3 orbital factories to full production." Sarah nodded, remembering how quickly Earth's nations had united in the face of this threat. Old rivalries had been set aside overnight. The Russian Federation had opened its quantum research facilities to international teams. The African Space Consortium had offered its launch facilities for round-the-clock operations. Even private space companies had integrated themselves into the global response effort. "Commander," Zixtal moved forward, its crystalline form catching the light. "We have received reports from our long-range scouts. The tide has accelerated its advance in the Carina sector. 3 more systems have gone dark." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what "gone dark" meant. Entire solar systems transformed into something alien and incomprehensible, their fundamental physical constants rewritten to serve the tide's mysterious purpose. Sarah straightened her shoulders. Then we accelerate too. Lieutenant Patel, how soon can we begin testing the quantum resonance weapons? The prototypes are ready now, Aisha replied, bringing up new schematics. We've adapted the barrier technology into focused beams. Think of it as enforcing our laws of physics onto their altered space. The energy requirements are massive, but we've found a way. Professor Cohen interrupted, excitement clear in his voice. Show them, James. Captain Henderson activated another display, showing a modified antimatter reactor design. We're calling it the Phoenix Core. It generates enough power to maintain a quantum resonance field by using the tide's own spatial distortions as an energy source. The more they try to rewrite physics in an area, the more power we can draw to stop them. Zixtal's translator struggled to convey the depth of emotion in its response. You're using their own strategy against them. This is unprecedented. Our scientists never considered. That's because you never had to fight your own planet just to survive, Dr. Wong said quietly. On Earth, using an opponent's strength against them isn't just tactics, it's survival. Sarah watched as her team continued refining their plans. The quantum resonance satellites were already under construction. The first wave of defensive platforms would create safe zones around populated systems. The second wave would carry the fight to the tide itself. We'll need to test these systems soon, she announced. Ambassador Zixtal, we'll need coordinates for an advancing front of the tide, somewhere we can deploy without risking populated systems if something goes wrong. The alien diplomat's form pulsed with what they now recognized as determination. We have already identified several candidates. Our ships are ready to transport your devices as soon as they are complete. Sarah turned to address the entire room. Everyone, listen up. What we're attempting has never been done before. We're not just fighting an enemy. We're fighting against the transformation of reality itself. But that's what humans do. We take impossible situations, and we find a way through. She gestured to the displays showing the advancing tide. Every problem has a solution. Every force has a counter. We evolved on a world that should have killed us, and instead, we learned to thrive there. Now we're going to teach the galaxy how to do the same thing. The room erupted in determined activity, humans and aliens working side by side, combining advanced technology with Earth-born innovation. As Sarah watched them work, she felt a fierce pride. Humanity had dreamed of proving itself among the stars. Now they had their chance, not through conquest or competition, but by doing what humans did best, facing the impossible and finding a way to overcome it. The first wave of quantum resonance satellites would launch tomorrow. Operation Stardust was about to begin, and with it, humanity's first steps toward becoming not just a planetary species, but a force for survival in a galaxy that desperately needed their unique perspective. The observation deck of the UEDS Phoenix buzzed with tense energy as Commander Sarah Chen watched the first quantum resonance barrier deploy around the Proxima Centauri system. The massive array of satellites sparkled in the starlight, each one a testament to humanity's rapid technological advancement under pressure. Quantum field stabilization at 97%, Lieutenant Puddle reported, her eyes fixed on the readouts. The barrier is holding. But Sarah noticed something in the lieutenant's voice. What aren't you telling me, Aisha? The power consumption is higher than our models predicted. At this rate, the Phoenix cores will burn out in less than a month. We're buying time, but not enough. Dr. Wong stepped forward, his tablet displaying new data from the barrier sensors. Commander, you need to see this. The tide isn't just hitting the barrier, it's learning from it. Each attack is more sophisticated than the last. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. They had known the tide was adaptive, but this level of strategic response suggested something more. Show me the pattern analysis. The holographic display filled with complex data streams, showing the tide's attacks against their defenses. Captain Henderson joined them, his expression grim. It's like watching an immune system respond to a new pathogen. They're probing for weaknesses, developing countermeasures. Wait. Professor Cohen had been quiet until now, but something in the data caught his attention. Marcus, can you overlay the energy signature patterns from the first contact? Compare them to this. As Dr. Wong compiled the data, a new pattern emerged. The tide's attacks weren't random. They followed a precise mathematical sequence, one that seemed hauntingly familiar. It's a language, Professor Cohen breathed. The quantum fluctuations, they're not just attacks. They're communication. Zixtel, who had been observing silently, moved closer to the display. Communication. With whom? With each other, Sarah realized, and maybe with us. Lieutenant Patel's fingers flew across her console. If we modify the quantum resonance field to match their communication frequency, we might be able to do more than just block them. We could talk to them. The next few hours were a blur of activity. The entire scientific team worked to reconfigure the barrier's quantum field generators. They weren't just trying to stop the tide anymore. They were trying to understand it. Field reconfiguration complete, Aisha announced. Initiating communication attempt in 3, 2, 1. The barrier's energy signature shifted, its quantum patterns aligning with the tide's own frequencies. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sensors exploded with activity. They're responding. Dr. Wong called out. The pattern is changing. Through the quantum resonance field, they began to receive information, not in words or images, but in pure mathematical concepts. Professor Cohen's translation algorithms worked overtime to decode the message. They're not invading, he said finally, his voice filled with wonder. They're running. The tide isn't a weapon or a natural disaster. It's a refugee crisis. The revelation hit the room like a physical force. The quantum tide wasn't trying to destroy reality. It was a vast collective of quantum-based life forms, fleeing from something even worse in the spaces between galaxies. Their attempt to rewrite physics wasn't an attack. It was their only way to survive in our reality. Sarah turned to Zixtal. Your people detected the tide first. Did you ever pick up any signals from beyond the galaxy's edge? The alien's form rippled with new understanding. There were anomalies. We dismissed them as background radiation. But if something out there is chasing the tide entities, then we need to help them, Sarah declared, not fight them. Dr. Wong, Lieutenant Patel, can we modify the quantum resonance technology to create stable zones where both our physics can coexist? Aisha was already running calculations. The theory is sound. Instead of forcing our physics onto their space, we create an interface layer, like a cell membrane, allowing controlled exchange between two different environments. It would require completely redesigning the barrier network, Captain Henderson pointed out. We'd need to rebuild everything we've deployed so far. Sarah smiled. Then that's what we'll do. Professor Cohen, can you establish more detailed communication with them? Let them know we want to help. Already working on it, he replied, his translation algorithms adapting to the quantum language. They're responding. I think they're relieved. They've been trying to communicate since they first arrived, but no one could understand them. Over the next few hours, the true scope of the situation became clear. The tide entities were refugees from a cosmic catastrophe, their original realm of existence being torn apart by something they could barely describe. They had flowed into our galaxy, desperately trying to create spaces where they could survive, not realizing the damage they were causing to existing life forms. We need to call an emergency session with Earth's governments and the Arxer Council, Sarah announced. This changes everything. We're not fighting an invasion. We're conducting a rescue operation on a galactic scale. As her team began adapting their technology from weapons to lifeboats, Sarah reflected on the irony. Humanity had been called upon to help fight an impossible enemy, only to discover that the real challenge was finding a way to help everyone survive. It was exactly the kind of problem humans were best at solving, turning conflicts into cooperation, finding ways to help life thrive in seemingly impossible conditions. The quantum resonance barriers were transformed into integration zones, creating spaces where both forms of life could exist together. Humanity's experience with adapting to extreme environments proved invaluable in designing these hybrid spaces. The Deathworlders who had evolved to survive anything were now teaching the galaxy how to help everyone survive together. The Galactic Council chamber aboard the Arxer station hummed with activity as representatives from 100 species gathered to witness humanity's presentation. Commander Sarah Chen stood before them, her presence commanding attention despite being physically smaller than many of the alien delegates. The quantum integration zones are now operational in 7 star systems, she announced, gesturing to the holographic display showing green-marked sectors of space. Each zone provides a stable environment where traditional matter-based life and quantum-based entities can coexist. Lieutenant Patel stepped forward, bringing up detailed technical readings. The success rate has exceeded our initial projections. The quantum refugees have shown remarkable adaptability once given a stable framework to work within. The chamber erupted in overlapping translations as various species discussed the implications. A massive crystalline being, the representative of the Vex Collective, raised an appendage. But how can we maintain these zones across such vast distances? The energy requirements alone. That's where the next phase comes in, Sarah replied. Dr. Wong, show them Project Harmony. Marcus activated a new display, showing a network of interconnected quantum resonance fields. We've learned from Earth's own history. Just as our planet's biosphere maintains itself through countless interconnected systems, we're creating a self-sustaining network. Each integration zone strengthens the others. Professor Cohen, who had mastered several new forms of quantum-based communication, added, and the refugees themselves are helping. Once they understood our intentions, they began actively participating in maintaining the stability of these zones. A ripple of surprise moved through the chamber. The idea of cooperating with the very entities they had been fighting seemed impossible to many species. But humanity had learned long ago that survival often meant finding ways to work with forces that initially appeared hostile. This is unprecedented, Zixtal observed, its form shifting with complex emotions, to turn a galaxy-wide crisis into an opportunity for expansion and growth. That's what humans do, Captain Henderson said proudly. We take impossible situations and find ways to make them work for everyone. Sarah moved to the center of the chamber. But we need your help to make this succeed on a galactic scale. Each species here has unique insights, technologies, and abilities that can contribute to the network's expansion. She began outlining roles for various civilizations. The Arxer's mastery of space-time manipulation would help stabilize the zones. The Vex Collective's crystalline technology could serve as quantum information conduits. Even smaller species had vital parts to play in the massive undertaking. The key, Sarah emphasized, is understanding that strength comes in many forms. On Earth, we learned that survival isn't just about being the strongest or most advanced. It's about adaptation, cooperation, and finding unexpected solutions. Over the next several hours, she and her team conducted what amounted to a masterclass in human problem-solving methodology. They showed how Earth's countless survival challenges had prepared humanity for exactly this kind of situation. Look at your own worlds, Dr. Wong encouraged the assembled delegates. What seems like a disadvantage might be exactly what we need. The harsh radiation on your planet, perfect for testing quantum field stability. Your species' slow decision-making process, ideal for monitoring subtle changes in the integration zones. Lieutenant Paddle demonstrated how they had adapted Earth technologies to work with alien systems. It's like an ecosystem, she explained. Every species, every technology has its niche. Together, they create something stronger than any single approach could achieve. The council chamber transformed into a collaborative workshop. Species that had never worked together began finding ways to combine their unique abilities. The quantum refugees, communicating through the newly established translation protocols, offered insights into their own nature that helped refine the integration process. Sarah watched with satisfaction as barriers between species broke down. This was humanity's gift to the galaxy, not just the technology to solve the crisis, but the mindset that made such solutions possible. Commander, Zixtal approached her during a brief recess. When we first came to Earth, we hoped your species might help us fight an overwhelming enemy. Instead, you've shown us how to turn enemies into allies, how to find strength in our differences. Sarah smiled. That's because humans learned long ago that the hardest battles aren't always won by fighting. Sometimes victory comes from understanding, adaptation, and the willingness to see new possibilities. As the session resumed, new plans were taking shape. The integration zone network would expand exponentially, with each species contributing its unique strengths. The quantum refugees would help maintain and stabilize the network, their very presence strengthening the bonds between traditional space and their quantum realm. This is just the beginning, Sarah told the assembled delegates. Together, we're not just solving a crisis, we're building a new kind of galaxy, one where different forms of life can thrive together. And if something worse really is coming from beyond the galaxy's edge, we'll be ready. Not as separate species, but as a united front, stronger together than we ever could have been apart. The chamber filled with expressions of agreement in 100 different forms, light patterns, chemical signatures, gravitational pulses, and more. Humanity had come to the stars prepared to fight for survival. Instead, they had taught the galaxy how to transform survival into cooperation, crisis into opportunity, and fear into hope. 1 year after the quantum refugee crisis began, the observation deck of Earth's new Galactic Coordination Center offered a view that would have seemed impossible months ago. Commander Sarah Chen watched as ships from dozens of species moved smoothly through the quantum integration zones, their hulls gleaming with the characteristic shimmer of passing through the boundary between normal and quantum space. Final Integration Zone Network Status Report, Commander, Lieutenant Patil announced, bringing up a galactic display. Green lights dominated the map, showing the spread of successful integration zones across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. We're at 98% stability across all sectors. Dr. Wong approached with his latest findings. The quantum refugees have established self-sustaining communities in over 200 systems now. They're not just surviving, they're helping us understand the universe in entirely new ways. Sarah nodded, remembering the journey that had brought them here. What had started as a desperate plea for help had transformed into one of the greatest advances in galactic history. The integration zones had done more than solve the refugee crisis. They had opened up entirely new fields of science and exploration. Commander, Professor Cohen called from his communication station. You'll want to see this. We're receiving the first clear data from the quantum deep space sensors. The holographic display shifted, showing readings from beyond the galaxy's edge. The quantum refugees had helped design these sensors, combining their natural ability to perceive quantum states with human ingenuity and alien technology. What they revealed was both fascinating and alarming. The void between galaxies, Sarah breathed. It's not empty at all. The sensors showed complex quantum structures spanning the intergalactic space, ancient networks of quantum-based civilizations, some thriving, others in various states of collapse. The catastrophe that had driven the refugees to their galaxy was visible now. A massive wave of quantum decay, slowly breaking down these ancient structures. Captain Henderson studied the readings intently. The refugees were right. Something is coming, but now we can see it, track it, understand it, and prepare for it, Sarah added. Together, the Galactic Council had been transformed by the crisis. Where once there had been rigid hierarchies and cautious isolation, now there was active cooperation and exchange. Humanity's approach to problem-solving, born from surviving on their death world, had shown the galaxy a new way forward. Zixtal emerged from a quantum transition field, its form now able to shift seamlessly between normal and quantum states thanks to the integration technology. The council session is about to begin. They're eager to hear the deep space sensor results. Sarah gathered her team and headed to the council chamber. The room had been redesigned to accommodate both traditional and quantum-based life forms, a physical representation of the changes they had achieved. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the space, some physical, some quantum, some existing in states between. As Sarah presented the findings from the deep space sensors, she could feel the shift in the room. There was concern about the approaching quantum decay, yes, but not fear. Not anymore. The galaxy had learned from humanity that challenges were opportunities for growth, that diversity was strength, and that adaptation was the key to survival. The quantum decay will reach our galaxy in approximately 50,000 years, she explained. Thanks to the integration zone network and our combined understanding of quantum physics, we have time to prepare. But more importantly, we have something our ancestors never had. We have each other. The chamber resonated with agreement. The quantum refugees shared complex mathematical concepts, showing how the integration zones could be modified to resist the decay. Alien scientists proposed ways to strengthen the barriers between normal and quantum space. Human engineers suggested methods to expand the network to protect neighboring galaxies. This is humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, Zixtal observed later, as they watched teams of mixed species working together on the next generation of integration technology. Not the technology itself, but the way of thinking that made it possible. Sarah smiled. We just showed you what we learned on Earth. That survival doesn't mean just enduring. It means adapting, growing, finding ways to thrive in any situation, and doing it together. The quantum deep space sensors continued mapping the vast networks between galaxies, each discovery adding to their understanding. The integration zones expanded, not just protecting space, but enriching it. Species that had once feared each other now worked side by side, each contributing their unique perspectives and abilities to the greater whole. On Earth, children now grew up learning both traditional physics and quantum mathematics, preparing for lives in a galaxy where the impossible had become routine. The harsh planet that had forged humanity into survivors had ultimately taught them how to help others survive as well. New long-range sensor data coming in, Lieutenant Patil announced. We're detecting quantum structures in the Andromeda Galaxy. They might have their own refugee crisis coming. Then we'll be ready to help them too, Sarah declared. After all, that's what Deathworlders do. We take what we learned from surviving the impossible, and we use it to help others survive as well. As she looked out at the bustling activity of the Galactic Coordination Center, Sarah saw the future taking shape. Humanity had dreamed of reaching the stars, proving themselves among alien civilizations. Instead, they had done something far greater. They had shown the galaxy how to face its challenges together, how to turn diversity into strength, and how to transform survival into prosperity. The quantum decay might be approaching, but it would find something unprecedented waiting for it. A galaxy united, strengthened by its differences, ready to face whatever came next. Not as separate species fighting for survival, but as a living example of humanity's greatest lesson, that the key to overcoming the impossible is working together to find a way forward, no matter what.